Hi, this is Trev and welcome to my blog. Welcome to part 1 of the Ferrari 250 GTO replica. As most of my regular viewers will be aware, I work in a restoration shop called Racing Restoration near Cirencester, owned and run by Steve Gowing. Now, I've worked for Steve for the last couple of years restoring classic sports cars, and very nice and very valuable cars they are too. Now, something of interest that's come up at Steve's place is this replica car, actually owned by Steve himself. And what I quite like about this car is that it's not the kind of car where you need to have £2 or £3 million tucked away to invest into the car. It's something that myself or Steve or anyone else that's watching this video would probably be able to afford. It's an enthusiast's car, and this is why I thought it'd be really interesting to do a blog on it, because it's not out of the reach of the normal person. So I've got some videos strung together and some pictures, and I'll talk you through what we've done. It won't be like my usual blog where I can go in depth and take lots and lots of in-depth video, because I'm working for Steve. I've got to earn a living for Steve and myself at the same time, so I can't invest as much time in making this video as I could with my van. So I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, let's go and watch some videos. The Ferrari 250 GTO, an undeniably very beautiful car, was manufactured between 1962 and 1964. They only made 39 of these cars, and today's prices are up to $64 million. Our base for our kit is based upon this Datsun 240Z. It was manufactured between 1969 and 1978. It's a two-door coupe and had a 2.4 litre straight-six engine. The first vehicle that Steve bought was this kit that had already been done, and it had gone seriously rusty. It had gone so rusty, in fact, that Steve decided to abandon this project and search for a new shell. There was, however, some very useful parts on this donor vehicle, such as the tailgate catches, the doors, and various hinges and bits and pieces. So it was very handy that Steve's still got these cars, because he can still take these parts off. So the hunt was on for a better body shell, and this shell turned up that we're about to see in the next shot. It's an extensively repaired 240Z body shell. It's had new floor panels, new seals, new rear wheel arches, and it's been extensively welded up already. It's an essentially very solid shell. By pure chance, this full fiberglass kit came up, a new old stock kit comprising of front and rear clamshell and door skins. This was going to make the job much better, as bonding these new panels to the new shell would be far easier than trying to remove those old panels off that old body shell. In this shot you can see that we've started welding up the original lamp panels and the fuel filler flap badge holes. We've also done some repair to the rear panel in the slam panel area. The next job that we needed to take on was to remove the original wheel arches. We've removed the rear wheel arches out as far as they'll go to the top of the wheel tub, so I've had to remove some of the inner wheel tub as well. The reason for doing this is so that when the rear clamshell goes over the top, the arches on the clamshell will line up neatly with the steel arches on the original shell. Something else that we've decided to do is to remove the lower valance sections from the rear quarter panels and the rear panel. This is because when we put the rear clamshell on and we looked behind the bodywork, these panels look very obvious hanging down. This is just a quick shot of a 275 GTB we had in for some paintwork. We also had to manufacture a panel to go in the original sunroof aperture. We also needed to fill in the rear quarter light holes as well, so we made some panels up for this. Steve started looking at the smaller detail of the shell now, and he's picked up that there's some rather angular profiles to the roof section that need sorting out to make them more Ferrari-like. Also had to remove the roof drip rail. It's been completely removed at the rear to allow for the fiberglass to be bonded on flushly with the shell. This is the front screen aperture, which has got a nasty bit of rust in the corner. We've cut the rust out, and in this shot you can see me forming a piece of steel to make a repair section for our rust hole. You can see that it's flat at the moment, and I need to give it a decent profile. You can see that it fits well, but it's completely the wrong shape. So a piece of kit that gets regular use is a shrinker stretcher. You can see in this shot that I'm stretching and shrinking the steel to make the correct profile piece to go back in as a repair section. You can see now that the panel is the correct profile for the repair section. With a little bit of trimming and some careful welding, I can now weld this repair piece into the hole, which will make a nice job of it, which will leave no finishing off at all. Going back to our donor car now, something else that Steve really wants to change, and this is where the project's going to get more interesting now, is he wants to do away with the tailgate. He wants to fit a rear boot lid as the original GTO would have been. So this is what we've decided to do now, is to make the panels to finish off the back end. So the first job we needed to do was to remove the drip rail, the internal drip rail for the tailgate. We also need to remove the hinge holes. So all this metalwork was cut out a new metalwork welded over the top to make it look really flush. The whole point of this is so that you look through the rear screen and there's no evidence that it was a tailgated car before. You can see the two panels being welded together there to make a super strong job. And in this next shot you'll see what a bystander will see when they look through the rear screen. You can see that it's nice and flush now, nothing obvious hanging down anymore. So I'd got the project far enough along at this stage to think about fiberglass work. So I got the rear clamshell and trimmed it. Now these shells come very much overladen with too much detail in them that's got to be trimmed off because they just don't fit very well. You can see some of the sections that I've been trimming away. The rear slam panel has virtually got to be removed in its entirety, so I'm going to cut it along there and around the latch hole. Also, the fuel filler cap needs to be removing because we're going to make it look more genuine and original now, so that will have to be filled in. And I've also cut out the rear vents. Now that I've got all that trimmed off, I just need a couple of volunteers. So here's my colleagues, Rory and Jamie, going to give me a hand to lift the rear clamshell on for the first time. With a bit of wiggling around, it soon fits like a glove. Nice one. Well, that really is all we've got time for. Thank you very much for watching. I did mumble and fumble my way through it somewhat, and I'd like to have made a slicker presentation, but unfortunately my old steam powered computer doesn't allow this. I'll catch you in part 2, where I'll be welding up the rustiest doors you've ever seen, and also I'll be making the hinge panel which will hold the boot lid and the fuel cap, and I may even get round to the boot lid. So I'll catch you in part 2. Bye for now.